The 1v1 interview series is a production of the Boss Rush network of podcasts. Visit bossrush.net to listen to our podcast and read our articles, game reviews, and more. You can also follow us on Twitter at Boss Rush Network to stay up to date with our content. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to 1v1 here on Boss Rush Games. I'm your host, the one, the only, and the delighted and excited Eddie V. Joining me, finally, we get to touch down. My best friend, my bro, him. I started with him way back in the day, probably about what, five?
It's going to be 6 years in March.
Oh, good googly movie. 6 years. Like starting this network and this podcast with them. He's literally my best friend, my bro, him. Like, yeah, I just don't know when I get to interact, when I get to see him, when I get to sit by him. Man, I get to crack up. I get to literally be serious with them at times, but just like we've been kind of friends for a really long time. It's funny because we actually met through Facebook, I think Nintendo voice chat.
Mhm.
And we're gonna get more into it. Everybody, please welcome I guess the boss or head chief of World 1 1 Network. I should just really say, not just the podcast network. Please, everybody, welcome Larry Giver. Hello.
Easy way to keep straight how long it's been. Remember how old Olivia is, because she was born 3 weeks after you and I started the show.
Yes, that is true.
Episode 4, I was gone because I was in the delivery room.
Yes. So let everybody know, the original cast, original founders, I should say, was Larry, our good friend Adrian Nieto, and Tony Zilakakis. We were, we're still friends and everything. We started World 1 1 podcast because we was doing Nintendo Book Club, and we was playing Nintendo games, and Adrian was hosting that, and we just kept talking, interacting. This is back in before Facebook became what it is today.
It was you, me, Adrian, and Tony. And I think it was the November before we started World 1 1. We did a NVC book club episode together on Metroid Prime, is what it was.
Yes. And so, we just kept talking, and, we had other people also that we interacted in Nintendo Book Club and Nintendo Voice Chat, and literally it just expanded from there. People will be here and there, and everything. But before we get all into that, Larry, how are you?
Still waking up, but I'm all right. I'm surviving.
That's good. That's very good. We're going to start this discussion about how did you actually get into video games?
Oh, let's see. Had friends when I was a kid that, it was something that just always drew to me, and, had friends that had video games. So, we'd go over and hang out and play video games when I was a kid, and then it's like, yeah, no, I'd like to have this at my house, please, because I grew up in a neighborhood without really any kids in it. And so a lot of my childhood was finding ways to entertain myself. So things you could do without anybody else around: books, TV, movie, Legos, video games. And I will say it was probably very formative in my taste in video games, because I'm not one for multiplayer much of anything. And so, single player, something with a deep, engaging, well-written story, or something with a really unique or interesting hook. but multiplayer was never a draw for me because I'm like, yeah, this was never my thing because I never had anybody to play with. This was something for me to entertain myself with.
Yeah, a lot of the multiplayer games, like way back in the day, were co-op, but it was only like a few. Like, Tecmo Bowl, of course, because it's a sports game, or Double Dribble. But like one of the most well-known co-op games was Contra, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because of its run and gun nature, and that two characters are both on screen. Mostly with some co-op games, you have to take turns. Like the first player will go first, and then if you die, it's the second player. Even Nintendo did that with until like Super Mario Brothers 3. Or even Super Mario World. Like you didn't actually get more people on screen until New Super Mario Brothers.
At least for that series, but
yeah,
I mean, that's not to say that they weren't doing other things where you're playing with multiple people together on the screen at the same time.
Right, like of course Mario Kart and Mario Party and stuff. Some of the side games in the Mario series, but like playing in a platform sense, you really didn't get that until, in my opinion, New Super Mario Bros. Wii and stuff.
Maybe. I feel like Donkey Kong might have.
No, Donkey Kong gets switched.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It's been a while since I've cracked that open.
Yeah, because I literally thought like Duck Hunt would do it, but it like Duck Hunt didn't or anything.
Well, Duck Hunt technically had a 2-player.
Yes, it did.
So,
but it
it's not like anybody's character. Well, no, in 2-player, there's only one character on the screen, the duck. The main player isn't even on the screen.
Yes, that is true. It was you, the gun, and the sound effect.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I need a Duck Hunt 2 where I can finally play as the dog.
Oh, good googly moogly. Are we ready for that one? Well,
I'm just saying, I'm a little surprised they never did a Duck Hunt 2 on the Wii.
That is true.
That's a weird one to skip. They totally should have done a brand new Duck Hunt on the Wii.
I think Duck Hunt is such a packing game. They would have been like, how do we make this as a full game? Because of course, with Link, with The Legend of Zelda, they were able to do it because of the bow. But I'm just like, how do you do Duck Hunt without getting PETA to like make some kind of fake game and making fun of Nintendo or offending?
Here's what PETA does. PETA can get bent.
Which is weird. And I never understood why PETA will always pick on Nintendo with this games, but never like the hunting games. That like
because it's bigger.
Like even like with Sega's fishing games, they never picked on anything where your main goal is to hunt animals and hurt them.
Because bigger target gets you a bigger audience.
It's very interesting. Just very interesting. Well, let's jump into how World 101 podcast start. How did the idea come up?
Well, the original iteration from long ago now was, you, me, Eddie, or you, me, Tony, and Adrian, because we got together for that episode of NBC Book Club, and I really had a good time. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like we all gelled well together. We should totally do some more of this. And so I dug you all up on Facebook, stuck you all in a group on Messenger, and was like, hey, I got an idea. You want to do more of this? I poked at it for a month or two. We finally got it off the ground and started moving, and it started mostly just kind of aimless video game chatter with More for us, I think it was just to enjoy getting to have, a couple of people to chew the fat with and
Mhm.
talk video games on a weekly basis. And it's grown and changed and evolved from there, obviously, but that's kind of where it started.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I came off of that episode of NVC Book Club, and I'm like, that was a lot of fun, and it felt like the conversation just jived really well.
Yeah. And when we were doing it, we didn't have the technology that we have now in a sense. It was just like I was recording it, I was sending you the file, we were still recording through Skype, and
It
I
was a
had
ramshackle operation.
yes, it
Skype
was.
didn't have its built-in recording option at that point. We had to wait years for that to come along.
Oh yes. So we literally had to make do. Um for anybody who don't know, I kind of had to use two computers at the time to
Uh-huh.
record it and everything. But um I did Audio Magic. We got to record it, and we figured things out. We was uploading it and getting it out, and we actually had some good flow to it because it would be like what
There definitely was some back in the day.
what we've been playing, um, pitching ideas for games and stuff. Of course, we would talk news, but we will also have like a topic. So we we had formats to the show, but
It
it
was
had
very loosely defined.
yes, we we ended up coming up with our motto. We are professionally professional, a train wreck of
Train
a
wreck of professionalism, Amtrak of
yes,
adulting.
yes, because there would be times that we would get serious and Larry would bust out with a joke and we would crack up, or we were we were grown sometimes, but it would be so off rails. It's so funny because we were having fun. We were literally young podcasters. We have never did anything like this, and it took us time to get to where we was at. You know,
And
and
that change did happen fairly organically. Like we started just kind of, it naturally shifted and kind of fell into place little by little, almost on
mm,
its own, really.
yeah,
So,
and when as time went, and like Tony and Adrian stepped down due to life reasons. Still love those guys.
just busy
um
doing their thing.
right. We was carrying the torch, and I got busy, and we got new people and stuff. um During that time, it was when it was just me and you doing a two-person podcast. We actually got to meet a lot of creators, and
Oh
because
yeah.
of you reaching out, like we was able to talk to Pierre Schneider, and I wish I had everything better at that time to talk to him, because that one was a really good talk.
It
But like,
was it. If you go back, that one was tragically riddled with audio issues because of connection problems
yeah,
more than anything. But
uh and I still think one of our biggest discussions, I still feel like, talking to Yacht Club,
mm-hmm.
and
Yacht Club was good.
I feel like that kind of was our top interview with it, uh because we not only talked about uh Shovel Knight. We actually felt like in all honesty, it really felt like we all knew each other for years, and that we played video games, definitely on the NES, in the same neighborhood, because it was just amazing to talk to them and everything. And well, I want to ask you, what has been your biggest conversation that you took away from interviewing? Like, which one was you felt
Biggest
like
or
was,
favorite?
yes.
Oh, favorite interview. I'll give it a. It's got to be Milton and Steve, but I will say
Yes.
Jonathan Holmes is a really, really tight second.
He is amazing.
So, like, Holmes was just right behind, but Milton and Steve for me, for personal preference reasons, and then on top of that too, they are one of the only ones that have actually become recurring on our shows.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we've had them on together a couple of times and separately once or twice.
Yeah,
for different things.
And I feel like talking to Milton, just the way that he creates and he designs, and he has this passion for adventure games that's like in the realm of Metroidvania, if you want to put it that way. Just seeing how him and Steve did AM2R to now doing Ori and the Blind Forest for both
No,
games.
he wasn't on Blind Forest. He was on Will of the Wisps.
Will of the Wisps. But joining us with Moon Studio to help make that game, it literally was amazing. Because I think I even congratulated him on yes, and you're at Moon Studios, you're achieving your dream. I'm like, this fan project that you did led you to actually be with a studio to make an actual game, and that's amazing. Like, now you are, to me, a certified developer. Not saying that he was a developer when he made AM2R,
Yeah.
but I'm like, you are literally a certified developer, and it's so great to know
Professional in the business sense.
yes, that good things has came
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. And even now, I don't know what Steve has been up to because I haven't got to talk to him. But
I still talk to Steve actually semi-regularly.
But he's a great person. Like, he was literally awesome.
He's been doing some art stuff for us actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's the one that's been working on the Phazon Labs show logo.
Mm-hmm.
He also did the new graphic for the network slogan.
Okay. Well, I kind of want to ask you, how did you expand the World 1-1 network, I should say?
Well, that kind of started. Oh, excuse me, it's still early. That started because Michael and I used to chat back and forth all the time, because I've known Michael since I was in middle school.
Mm.
So we go way the hell back.
Before you go, Larry, can you scoot up? Because it's only your eyes. There you go.
Oh, yeah, no, fine. No, that's all you get. It's we're doing this you don't know Jack style.
It's not going to be good for the video. Go ahead.
Find me Cookie Masterson now. But in any case, so Michael and I would regularly conversate and throw our Metroid ideas back and forth, because we're both big, huge fans. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like there's a good deep well of content there that could be fun to play with, just for the sake of doing something fun and creative. Mm-hmm. Someplace to, park these ideas. And so I got on and ended up crossing paths with Isabel, and she liked the idea and she jumped in and started Phazon Labs with me. I would have gone to Michael straight away, except I know his work schedule is rough.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little tough to try and make those pieces line up. But so, this was early 2021, and then, so we'd been playing with the idea and kind of getting it set up. And then E3 happened last year. And what we thought was going to be literal evergreen content suddenly now had an expiration date on it. So I'm like, well, shit, I guess we better move on this now. So we launched earlier than anticipated and before I had a chance to kind of get all the pieces in place that I wanted to get in place going into it. But it was very well and warmly received. Eventually, Isabel parted ways. She had a lot going on her plate, both putting together the Metroid 35 zine and school and other things. And so at that point, we did a passing of the torch and brought Michael aboard and for that project. And there were some others, and some of it is on hold at the moment just because of things that we're working on kind of behind the scenes, trying to get some things realigned and straightened up and find the best route forward, including the main show, World 1-1, actually. But I think we're getting closer to a solution, just because as the crew has grown and everybody's lives, change and things happen, you got to learn how to figure out how to move and evolve with those moving pieces. That's a tough one to do, but it's doable as long as you're willing to put into it. And like I said, I think we're getting closer to getting that sorted so that we can bring the main show back online along with Phazon Labs, and Hard Copy Hounds is another one that's sitting on hold because I was doing all the work front and back end on that myself, and that's a massive undertaking to get it to where it serves the purpose it's supposed to. And having that one and doing that one all on my own instead of having anybody to split the workload out with made that real tough. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to set this to the side for the moment until I can either figure out a better way to do it on my own, or I can get some help with that on the back end to make that more manageable on a weekly basis. But Phazon Labs is still, happily chugging along. I have a ton of fun with that. And then our newest one, I'd play that for $1 with Todd and Kathy and Chris, has been very well received. Actually, I've gotten a handful of comments over the last couple of months that we got that started that have really enjoyed it. It's kind of nice to hear that feedback. Funny story, actually. The genesis of that show started with just a play on the RoboCop movie line. I'd buy that for $1, and I'm like, I feel like there's an idea here, and I'm not sure what it is yet. But I started playing with it in my head, and I'm like, I'd play that for $1. And then I'm hearing I'd play that for $1 in my head in the voice of Fry from Futurama.
And
I'm like, what would this be? And I started putting the idea together, and it very quickly came into the idea that it is now. But the funny part was, I talked to LeGrew about it because LeGrew's kind of my right-hand man, especially in the background. He and I talk constantly, and he's very much and very often a soundboard for my ideas. And he's like, I feel like there's a limited series potential there, but he's like, I don't think it could. And I'm like, you and I are usually on the same page on this, but my gut says we can pull this off into a great ongoing deep well format. And a couple weeks later, he's like, I'm really liking this. This has turned out great. He's like, I was wrong. You had the idea right. So, but there's more in the cooker too. Matter of fact, actually, one of the old show segments that we used to do way back in the early days, is kind of sitting in the wings. There's actually a good handful of show ideas that are literally just sitting in a Google Doc somewhere, waiting for the right people to come along to pick them up and run with them, because my plate is as full as it can be with what I do and manage as far as the network and the shows go. But the thing is, there's a lot of killer ideas for expanding out, further the content that we provide and that we put out there. But I no longer have the bandwidth to add any more to my plate. And so it's a matter of trying to find the right person to come along and, match them up with the right idea and get them up and running with that. That said, we just launched yesterday as of recording, the newest show on the network. Zoe is doing Mind Over Media, which is a look at media, including movies, TV, music, and video games, and how certain pieces of those media tie to and or emphasize on mental and emotional health. First episode launched about Gris, which was absolutely fantastic, and there's more in the works. I know there's another couple that are queued up and ready to go. So a sneak preview, there's one coming on Lucifer. There's another one on Infinity Train, and I know some of the other stuff that she's working on in there as well. I've seen that Google Doc for other ones that she wants to tackle as they go forward with that.
It's funny that you mentioned Gree. We got a show called Talk the Walk on Boss Rush, and that was one of the games that we talked about. It is a show about walking simulators, and we at the time about Gree, I didn't know it was about grief. I thought it was just like, you lost this color and from this world, because of the color being gone, the statue that was holding you, like kind of almost your protector, kind of disappeared and stuff. So your journey was to get that color back. It didn't understand that it had all of this meaning, because don't forget, Greek came out of
10 out of 10. You missed the metaphor on that one.
but when you think about it, the reason why I was thinking about it bringing back color is because that you start this world in a black and white manner. And don't forget, they never told you anything about Greek. They just literally do the trailer. 2 or 3 weeks later, after the trailer came out, the game was on Nintendo Switch. And so you didn't have no idea that the game was about grief. So when I first played it, and I love grief, I still to this day, I even got on my YouTube page like the whole game, a 3-hour recording of the whole game. When I played it, it left me speechless, because I'm like, the music is beautiful, the level design is great. I love that when you progress, you're adding these colors, and these colors are kind of restoring the world. Like, you don't have no idea of grief, because you're also restoring that statue and everything. And then when you get to the end of the game and you see the conclusion, you're just like, okay, I got it. Yay. I thought that I saved the world. Well, when I say the world, that I brought all the color back and everything is back to normal. So
Speaking
when
of how
we
pretty
started,
that is, next time you're here, remind me to get out the art book for you to check out.
we looked at it.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I couldn't remember if we had or hadn't. It's been a while.
Yeah. And so that was kind of the thing about it, was just looking, not seeing it from that perspective. So when we talked about it on Talk the Walk, we was talking about grief and the things that what the colors represent in the areas and stuff. Because if you don't have no idea about it, you think it's this adventure slash, not so much a Metroidvania, but this adventure game where you progress, because you couldn't really go back to areas. Like, once you pass the area, you was locked out of it. That was it. If you want to go back to it, you gotta do, I guess, a chapter select after the game is over with and try to collect everything. But it was just interesting to see that take with it,
No, it's such a stunning game all the way through.
Yeah, I still feel like Santa Monica should use that art style to tell a God of War game or do something new. I would love to see Santa Monica
I
do
don't know
like
if,
hand drawn.
yeah, I don't know if I'd want to see them do God of War with that, but I could definitely see them doing something interesting.
Yeah. So, now everybody probably don't know what Phase On Labs is. Phase On Labs is a show about Metroid, and they explore the world of Metroid, looking into games, some of the history, and like even creating ideas for what a Metroid game could be in the future and
That's the
everything.
biggest piece, honestly, is just doing the pitch week over week is what it is. You know, I put out there that it's the internet's premier Metroid futurist podcast, because that's what we're doing, is, you know, looking at what the future of the series might be in terms of game ideas. And, you know, some of them are ones that we could easily see being legitimately feasible, and some of them are ones where it's like, I had this absolutely off the wall idea and it made me laugh, so if I have to live with it, you do too.
Yeah. Oh wow!
Like the Farmville episode.
Oh wow!
So,
Oh wow! Which is funny because now thinking about Metroid and it becoming a big phenomenon. Like Nintendo got that money from the Wii U sales.
yeah, they still
Zero
won't tell us
Mission.
actual numbers though, but
I think it's because it took them by surprise. They probably just don't record on old data in a sense like that. You know, I mean, and like me and you, we talked about Metroid Dread and everything. I kind of want to ask you, do you feel like now Mercury Steam is the head developer on the Metroid series?
no. Namely because you're talking almost two branches, because yeah, Mercury Steam has done the last two side-scrolling Metroid games, but then you've also got Retro, who's back in the saddle with the Prime series after that got scrapped and restarted on Prime 4. And you for a long time could have very much considered Retro to be the one that was the lead on the Metroid franchise, but really I think it's just, I don't know that I would put anybody front and center as this is the person or the studio responsible for it, because that series has forked into two directions essentially with the mainline and the Prime series. And then hell, you've got Team Ninja in the mix still from Other M.
Which is kind of weird because now Team Ninja is, well, not so much Team Ninja. I won't say that. Koei Tecmo has moved better into the Legend of Zelda franchise with the Warrior games than what Team Ninja did with it. Because to really tell you the truth, like it was kind of it's unexpected that Nintendo works with Koei Tecmo. Because it kind of started with the Wii, some 3DS games, but like on Nintendo's properties, it kind of started with the Wii. You know, Koei Tecmo was kind of, or Tecmo at the time was kind of just like, this is the Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive company.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got with Nintendo and like literally through everybody. That's kind of, I think, one of the biggest surprise about Nintendo working with Team Ninja to make a Metroid game.
That was definitely not the route that I saw that going. You know, when I'm like, who would pick this, and saw that, I'm like, okay, that was not the name I expected, but
they, to me personally, I feel like they pulled it off, because they was trying to move.
I think they did some things well.
Well, I think moving her to more action packed pace, giving it this style and everything. I think it was kind of like helping Kobe Tecmo or Team Ninja at the time, um, helping them better their action games because Nintendo's the only company at this time that I know of that have a exclusive game from Team Ninja and from Platinum Games. Because don't forget, uh, besides outside of Ninja Theory, you know, team it was mostly Team Ninja versus Platinum Games
Mhm.
at the time. And now to see that Nintendo works with both of them in a sense, you know, like there's like really no beef or anything. It's an interesting thing. I'm like, if you go back and you look at the games that they produce and some of the stuff that was said, you would kind of be amazed that Nintendo, with all the money that they have, they work with those companies to make better products. So regardless of what people think about Metroid Other M, you kind of got to give it to Nintendo and Team Ninja coming together to make that game because it kind of made them a better developer after the Ninja Gaiden games.
I could see that. There definitely had to have been some takeaways that they learned from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, granted, you gotta get that with anybody and everybody, but I feel like that's a big one there for them.
Right, because there's got to be someone at Nintendo that came in to be like, we're checking the quality and we're checking the polish of this game. Because me and you, we have talked about Metroid because it's one of your biggest series. It's like probably your
Mhm.
number one video game series.
Oh, it
And,
is.
you know, we got a 2-part episode about Metroid, you know, talking about the games, our time with it. And now seeing like we even literally we could have podcast about Metroid Dread, which we have one on Phazon Labs.
We did
Uh
that. Yep. We
but
did a
like
spoiler cast.
yes, but when we went and when we seen the trailer for Metroid Dread, I caught you like maybe what 40 minutes after that E3 presentation, and I called you from my car, and we literally could have podcast if we
Oh
was
yeah,
recording that conversation.
we absolutely could have.
You know, um, because it was kind of very interesting to see that. So, I kind of want to ask you now, what do you see the future of World 1-1 podcast or World 1-1 network, I should say?
Of the network, I said there's stuff that is just launching. There's some things that are just getting ready to start production, so there's more content coming, and I think it's going to start diversifying a little further in terms of content. I know that there are a couple of things that are either in the works or hopefully will be in the works in the near future that lean more towards flexing the creativity muscle, um, instead of just analysis and deep dives and breakdowns, which is, you know, one of the things that I miss doing as well, which is why I'm trying very hard to get uh, the show World 1-1 back on the rails again. There's some awesome topics that are sitting in the wings waiting for that train to start rolling again. Um, I'm really excited about some of the creative stuff. You know, Phazon Labs is really just kind of the first in what's going to be a suite of creativity and pitch driven shows. Um, so that's one that I'm really excited about. and one of those is actually born from a segment that we used to do way the hell back in the day. But I'm looking for the right person to fill the role of running that ship. There's some new scripted content that's in the works for the network. I won't say a ton more on that, but one of our folks is working on writing a scripted audio sitcom that will air on World 1-1 network. So that'll be a new direction for us to dabble into. There's actually a improv comedy series that I'm still hoping to find the right person for that vision, because you've heard it, you know what I'm talking about. But if we can get the right person to execute on that vision, I think it'll be hilarious in horrifying kinds of ways. But I would love to see that come together as well. But a lot of it is just really finding the right people for the right material, and that's the toughest thing, honestly. It's not as easy as going, putting up a post and go, who wants to make a podcast? There's a lot more to it than that makes building that future it makes it a lot of work, and a lot of effort goes into it, but when it finally comes together, the payoff is well worth. So
yeah, I remember there was a time before podcasts was getting popular, there were so many popping up, and now it's just like
pandemic did a lot for that.
Yeah. Right now it's just like podcasts is, it's about now maintaining the podcast and, adding new shows and doing limited series and stuff. Right now it's about maintaining with it and everything, because definitely with the way, things are going on in the world, you kind of need something to listen to or something to help you get through these times. There's not a new podcast popping up every week like it used to back in the day. Now it's just like, if you could, we talked about it, if you could pass like 4 episodes, it keeps the momentum going. You know the world of podcasting, being a podcaster, because it's just not about just getting a bunch of friends or people around the world and you guys talking. It's keeping that momentum and stuff, regardless of schedules and stuff. It's keeping it going and stuff. It's keeping it interesting. And sometimes you gotta reinvent and everything.
Speaking of, where it's going and new shows popping up, you're remiss if I didn't mention too, we've got another new one that we'll be recording some test episodes this coming week just to hammer out the details on it a little bit more. But new show is coming about something that all of us as gamers deal with, our backlogs.
Oh, that's easy.
So yeah, it's easy, but the trick is as a content creator, you've got to find a way to create a unique hook to stand out in that crowd too, though. And I think we've got the idea dialed in. We just gotta get the routine and the format dialed in execution.
We actually been talking about backlogs, just like people bringing it up around in the internet because it's a new year and they're finally getting to games that they have for years or that they started and they stopped. And it amazes me that, and I'm guilty of this too, is that we create this backlog because we're still playing the familiar games and the games that bring us comfort and stuff. You know, you spend a year playing this one game, even though you could have been playing all of this other stuff. And I think that's why, kind of when I look at it, it's just like, definitely from my point of view, it's just like, man, I need to jump more into the games that I purchase and that I have, and work through them and everything. Because I reward myself with like Yoshi coins. Like I set myself up with a system to be like, if I beat this and I get through it, this is what I am rewarding myself. So at the end of the year, this is my final total that I could actually say that I got these games done and
Yeah, and
everything.
how'd you do on your backlog for 2021?
So for 2021, I think I got through maybe 7 or 8 games that I got through for it, and it was because I was buying a lot of new games um in 2021. You know,
Oh yeah.
and so it was kind of just like being on the up and up, but I got a lot that I need to go through because there's like game like I was talking about River City Girls. I had that on my Switch for a while, but it was just like, let me sit down and play this all the way through, because I've never beaten a Kunio game. I've played many of them, but I never beat them. And I was like, okay, now I understand why this game that people love it and why it takes time to get into it, because it is a beat 'em up, but it's also a role playing game in a sense.
Hmm.
You
You're not
know,
wrong. It's they definitely have their place in the annals of history.
right? There are some games that I have for a backlog that I haven't started yet that I can't wait to get into, and some of them it's just like I'm at the end of the game. I just need to put it in and get through it.
Agreed. I was thinking about it the other day, honestly, and I feel like one of the biggest reasons that we as gamers, have such a pileup of backlog is because we see these games, announced and revealed, and we check out the trailers and the gameplay footage, and we go, that looks really good. That looks like a lot of fun. But then when it's in your hands and the reality of starting a new game and learning all the stuff from the beginning again is right in front of you, it starts to feel like a daunting task, and you just go,
Mhm.
I could just go back and replay the game that I already know inside and out and not have to, because that is a hurdle to get over when trying to get yourself to get into a new game, is finding one that not only are you in the right headspace for, that you're going to connect with to keep you playing, but then also getting over that initial hurdle of, man, I got to learn a bunch of new shit again just to enjoy this.
which which is good, and I think that's like, when people say they don't have nothing to play, I always feel like you do have something to play. You just choose not to play it.
Well, there's something to be said for, admitting it's like, yeah, I'm just not in the right space or the right frame of mind today to learn a new game. Like, I want to play a game. I don't want to learn a new game.
And
Not
and
right now.
and I think that's why I'm trying to change to be like, you know what? I had this game for a while. Let me put it in and let me work through it and everything. Cause like there's 2021 games that I started, got the idea of it, and then put away because I'm been working on other games. So, like me jumping around, I'm trying to do less of that and focus on and finish them.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and you're gonna finish more games if you do less hopping around, but it's
Yes.
sometimes your brain's just not there, and you got to know when to cut cut your losses for the moment.
Yeah, that is true. Well, Larry, we're gonna wrap this discussion up. Is there anything else that you would like to promote or speak about when it comes to the World One Network? I know everybody that's hard to say, uh, but anything that you would like to else say about World One Network?
So, two pieces. One, you know, make sure you're tuning in. We very conveniently put all of our shows in one single, easy to find RSS feed. You can find us on all of your favorite podcatchers. world11.podbean.com, all spelled out, all one word. You can also catch us. We're big fans of Good Pods. We love if you're listening to us on Good Pods, because it's a better way for us to be able to interact with anybody that's listening. It's a chance for us to kind of get a peek at who's listening, which you don't really get with any other podcatcher service. So shout out to them for building an awesome platform. But the second one, aside from go hit us up and check out our stuff and go from there. But the second one is, if you have any interest whatsoever in jumping into podcasting anywhere in the video game world, get a hold of us, because like I said, there's literally an entire sheet of show ideas that are literally just looking and waiting to be adopted by the right person, so that they can come into existence and be amazing with amazing people. So, if creativity is in your bones, get a hold of us. Come talk to me. We'll put something together, and we'll do some cool stuff, and we'll have some cool fun.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys can find me on Twitter at ThatRetroCode. You can check more of Boss Rush content at BossRush.net and on our YouTube page at Boss Rush Network. I'm sorry. Check our writing on BossRush.net. And also, everybody, if you would like to support us more, you can join our Patreon. There's various tiers on there that you guys could join at and receive bonus content early in events. And other things that could go, benefits, I should say, that could go along with it. With that, everybody, thank you, Larry, for doing this 1v1 with me. It's been so long that we podcast together. And
we don't get to do this nearly enough anymore.
Yes.
You and your bloody work schedule.
I know. But everybody, have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we will see you next time on 1v1. Bye, everybody.
Peace.